Hello, musical explorers. Welcome to our very first music theory lesson. Today we will be going over a few pages of the Julie Johnson Level 1 Basics of Keyboard Theory. All right, now let's hop into our lesson 1, letter names of notes. We will be learning about the treble clef. This is what it looks like, and the bass clef, and this is what it looks like. So we can learn these notes by memorizing our lined notes and spaced notes. And we will also be learning about the ledger line notes, which basically are notes that are too high or too low to fit in our 5 lines. All right, now let's use our previous knowledge to do some practices. So after knowing our line and space method, we should be able to identify what all of these notes are. But something to pay attention to is our clefs. So we have the treble clef and the bass clef. So they are different. So that is something we should be paying attention to when we're doing these kind of problems. Okay, so let's hop into our first one. So we know the first line's E, G, B, and then D. So we know the first note here is a D. Now we can use our space method to know that this note right here is an F. Now just using the similar methods, we are able to identify all of these notes. So let's go through them together. So we know that this is F and this is A, correct. So let's write that down. And now this is one of our ledger line notes. So yeah, we should be able to identify that because this is one of the most important notes, and that is our middle C. This note is a G. And this note is a D, correct. Now, can we name this note? Yeah, it's a G. And if we look closely, we can know that this G and this G are exactly an octave from each other, as well as this first D and the second D. They're also an octave to each other. All right, next. So this is also one of our ledger line notes. And so since this is one note below our C right here, we know that this is a B. All right, now let's do our bass clef area. So this, if we know, is going to be a E because as we can tell, these are different clefs, though their notes won't be the same. So this is going to be an E. Now let's look at this one. So we know that this is actually a perfect octave to each other. So this is also an E, but just an octave higher. Okay, now this note is going to be, let's see, A, C, E, G, and then B. So this is a B. Okay, wow, and there's another perfect octave here. So this is also a B. All right, next one. So this one, let's see. Okay, so memorizing our line pattern, we should know that this is a G. Okay, next. So this note is going to be A, C, E, G. So you got another perfect octave here. And basically, an octave is a note that are the same, but they are 8 notes away from each other. So let me show you guys an example. So here's our keyboard. This is very helpful when we are doing these kind of problems, so we can identify what these notes are. So let's see, let's use this G as an example. So this G, let's say that G was over here. Now, an octave would be 8 notes away, a perfect 8 notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, A. So that would be an octave. They're the same notes, but this G right here is obviously higher than our first G here. So I hope that explains what an octave is to you. All right, next problem. This one is a D. Wow, and we have another perfect octave here because they are 8 notes away from each other. So this is going to be a D as well. Now this one is going to be A. So this is an A, and this will be an F. Correct. Okay, so we have the first section done. Now let's move to our second section. So let's see what they want from us. So, okay, we will be naming these notes. All right, so, okay. So they want us to first space notes should touch the lines above and below them. Like here would be a good example. So as you can see, they are right between the 2 lines. Second, the top and bottom of the line notes should be in the middle of the spaces. So like this note here, it is in between the lines. Okay, up stems go on the right. So up stems are these kind of stems or these kind of stems. They are pointing upwards. And remember, something to remember is that they always go on the right and not the left. We cannot write our notes like that. That is incorrect. So let's erase that. Okay, now number 4. Down stems go on the left. So these are down stems. And let's see. So as we can see, yeah, that's a down stem. And down stems always go on the left side of our note and never on the right side because that would be wrong. Now, let's see number 5. Stems should be 3 spaces long. So we can see here, this would be a good example because our stems are 3 spaces long. So here is 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, and that's about 3 spaces. That means this is correct. Okay, now let's hop into some more problems. So let's do G. So G we should know is a lined note. So our first line is E, and our second line is a G. Correct. All right. Now, something to remember when we're going through these are that when the note is below our B, like our B, let me just give an example. So this would be our B, right? So if the note is below our B, the stems are going to be up stems. And if the note is higher than this B, or if it's this B and higher, then our stems should be down stems. So that's something to be kept in our minds. Okay, so now let's do this problem. Okay, so can do, let's see, okay. So this is our G. Now since this note is below our B, that means we have to have a up stem. So let's just draw a stem like that. Now let's hop into our second one. Well, obviously, like some of these notes are shaded because of their different length and how long they should be held for. But for now, I think we're just gonna go like this because I think it is important to learn about this in depth afterwards because this actually isn't very important for right now of what we are learning. So now let's do D. So we have 2 options, but I want to go with the higher D. So we're going to do this D. So since this note is higher than our B over here, that means our stem should go down and on the left. All right, now let's go through the rest of these. This is an F, so I'm going to put it here. Another F would be down here in the first space, but obviously this is up to you on which one you want to put. So this would be pointing downwards, as well as it being on the left, the stem being on the left. Okay, so now let's do E. So, okay, E is just a step below our F, so we can just think of it that way. This is also going to be a downwards stem on the left because it is higher than our B. Okay, now we have a B, so we're going to put that B here. And since it is on the B, it will also go on our left side as well as pointing downwards because remembering from before that the notes that are B, this specific B, and higher should have a down stem going on the left. All right, next. We have a note below the B, which is an A. So we can put that A over here. And we have a stem on the right pointing upwards. Okay, well, now let's go through all of these pretty quickly, but let's do something a little bit different. So since there are 2 G's, let's try to see if we can mark another G other than the one we marked previously. So this G, I want to mark maybe like an octave higher than our previous one. So that G would be over here. Like that. Now let's do F. So this is the same note, but let's do an octave higher, or lower actually, because this is already pretty high. So that note would be here. Okay, now let's do C. So we haven't done C yet, but let's do this C. And pointing downwards on the left. And something to keep in mind if you just cannot remember that up stems go on the right and down stems go on the left, we can do it by remembering it like this. We can remember it by knowing our ABCDs. And so we know that D is a letter, right? And so are P's. So that would make sense, right? So this looks like our notes. But something that wouldn't make sense is if our note is on, like, in the middle and our line is on the left side. This would be a B. And we don't have any, like, B-looking notes in our clefs. And, yeah, so we also wouldn't have a Q like that. So these don't make sense. So we don't want B's and Q's. We want D's and P's because these are the ones that are matching to our rule that we have here. And so we don't want B's or Q's. We want D's and P's. You can remember it that way. Okay, now let's do our bass clef line. So using the same understanding as before, let's do this again, but in bass clef. Okay, let's do F. So I want to do the lower F. So our lower F here. And that would be a D looking note like that. Now let's do C. So it'd also be a D like that. Now let's do G. So G is a note higher from F. So we would be there. Okay, now let's do A. So A is actually a note higher from our previous note that we did, G. So that's pretty nice and easy. Now let's do E. So E is a note below F, but we don't really have enough space to draw a low E. So how about we go with the E over here? It is an octave higher than the note below the F, the low F. So like that. All right, now let's do B. B is a note higher from this A here. So we can write it just a note above like that. So remember, that's a D. Okay. Now, here's a D note. And that is a note higher from this C. So we know that that's going to be over here. And point it down. All right, now here we have an F. So since these are the same notes, I would like to write that an octave higher than this note. So an octave higher, let's see. Yeah, would be over here, right? And it is exactly one note higher than this E here. So I would like to make some connections like this to help us understand a little bit more than what we are just currently learning. And okay, so we have another C, but let's mark that an octave higher. So an octave higher would be, let's see, let's count this time. So our current C is here. And if we want to do an octave higher, we have to count 8 steps higher. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this would actually be a ledger line note. But, okay, yeah. So that note would be like that, right? And now we can write that over here. Although it didn't ask us to do ledger line notes because we will be practicing that down here. So actually, I think for now we're just going to write the same note because we will be learning more about ledger lines notes afterwards. So let's just write the same notes for now. Oh, oops, that looks a little bit crooked, but that's fine. And yeah. All right, everyone. So I think that's all we're going to be doing for today's lesson. Remember to come back again next time to learn more about our ledger line notes as well as our second lesson where we will be learning about accidentals of sharps, flats, and naturals. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!